Goodness, it's coming down. Hail, too.
Is it?
Well, good thing, really. Finish off the heat wave, wash down the streets. Huh? Have some sherry. Something the matter?
It's this letter.
What letter?
Well, it's from Poirier's, the jewellers, about James.
Yes. We're so to wish to draw your ladyship's attention to an outstanding account. Resorting to the advice of our solicitors? Well, in other words, this stupid boy owes the money and won't pay.
Can't pay. He wouldn't owe money to a jeweller's intentionally. He's not like that.
Well, and how much is the bill? £86. Well, why in God's name doesn't he come and see us? If he's in debt, he'll have the pluck to say so. He hasn't been near us for 3 or 4 weeks now.
He's not stationed in London any longer.
But there are perfectly good trains to Paddington from Windsor. No excuse. He's avoiding us.
Probably because he doesn't want to cause us worry.
Marjorie, dearest, I know how fond you are of your own son, as every mother should be. But must you always make excuses for him?
He's in bad company, you know, I'm sure of it. Some of these young officers gamble more than they can afford to lose. I'm so afraid he's trying to keep up with them.
Well, if he is, he's a damn fool. He knows most of these young men have their own fortunes. But that has nothing to do with this jeweller's bill. There's only one explanation for that.
A woman?
An extravagant woman, Marjorie.
Do you really think so?
I've no doubt of it. James has fallen into the clutches of some greedy, unprincipled female who will take him for every penny she can get out of him.
They are, Jimmy. I'm afraid that's all I can manage till I get my salary at the end of the week.
Thank God for you, Sarah.
Oh, please don't mention it, I'm sure. Been here long?
Oh, 5 minutes. I'll pay it back, I promise. Just as soon as I get the right price for the brooch.
What brooch?
One I got from Poirier's in Bronze Street. Mother goes to them. Should fetch £100, more or less.
You're not going to pop something you haven't paid for.
Got to raise money somehow, Sarah.
Yeah, but that's not honest.
I can't help that. Gambling debts to a brother officer must be paid.
Oh, you are in a mess, ain't you, poor old love? I wish I could help.
Oh, you have. And the sugar.
Oh, lovely. I've got 3 encores. And a gent in a box with a monocle threw me a bunch of roses down. Well, they were supposed to land at my feet, but it was a bit long in the tooth, so they knocked me on the head and nipped my hat off. Didn't half get a big laugh, though. He come round afterwards and he invited me... Well, he left his card.
I wish I could take you to Romano's to supper tonight.
Oh, don't worry. I bought some kippers and we've still got a bit of beer left, so we'll sup shame water now, eh? Oh, cheer up, love. You're not dead till you're buried. Should we get me hat off?
And then?
And then... Who knows what devilish goings-on may take place at number 13 Dock Street, Deptford, where Lord James Bellamys is keeping a secret assignation with the woman of his dreams. As Lois, curled up on a leopard skin couch, panting, voluptuous and dangerous.
Ah, you've been reading Eleanor Glynn.
Plying the erring young nobleman with drink, the better to inflame his passions.
That's hardly necessary.
The woman?
Honey.
Hortense. She's French, you see.
Hortense, oh, God, no.
You're interrupting.
Forgive me.
Well, I'll have to, won't I? Anyway, this French Vicomtesse, who is in reality a Hungarian trollop from a Russian brothel, leaves the pale young lord to slake his thirst, while she, clad only in diaphanous chiffon, drifts her way wantonly towards her kitchen and prepares for his lordship a sumptuous feast. Fried kippers and wallop.
I'm not hungry for supper. Give me a kiss, eh?
Not so rough, Jimmy. It's hot. Oh, kippers. Pour us a drink, will you, love? I'm dying of thirst. Shove these now, eh?
Yeah, and I'll pop round the fellas and get some more booze.
Yeah, we'll get sloshed. Drown our sorrows.
In beer?
Gin, which I will permit you to sip from my slipper.
I see Lady Pendlebury's daughter's made a good marriage.
How can you judge whether a marriage is good or not, Mrs. Bridges, on the very day it's reported in the newspaper? Surely time alone will tell.
You know what I mean. You remember Lady Pendlebury? She came here to dine once or twice last season. She was lady-in-waiting to the Queen as Princess of Wales. Thin, angular person. Very sallow skin.
Indeed, I remember Lady Pendlebury, Mrs. Bridges. She had a regrettable habit of throwing her head back when she laughed. Edward nearly had the potatoes knocked out of his hand when he was serving her at luncheon, as a result of an amusing, if somewhat malicious anecdote told to her by Lord Charles Beresford. Time their visitor was here.
Visitor at this hour? It's 10:30.
Someone is coming to discuss a matter of great importance, Mrs. Bridges.
Oh. Who?
Colonel Winter.
Oh.
Colonel Winter, Captain James Colonel. I thought the master seemed a wee bit, There, that'll be the Colonel now.
Seemed a wee bit what?
Apprehensive, Mrs. Bridges.
Richard, I intend to stay and hear what the Colonel has to say. It's as much my concern as yours.
This is not your affair, Marjorie. Women should not involve themselves in these matters.
I'm going to stay and hear what Colonel Winter has to say, and that's that.
You are being very stubborn.
Colonel Winter, my lady.
I say I'm awfully sorry to propose myself at this late hour.
No.
Good evening, Bellamys. Marjorie.
This is a nice surprise.
I did want to word with you as soon as possible. It really is rather important.
Yes, of course. Whiskey and soda.
Thank you.
Do sit down.
Thank you so much. I say it's still dreadfully sticky, isn't it? In spite of the storm.
Yes, doesn't seem to have cleared the air at all.
Well, I won't detain you for long. I've got to get down to Windsor tonight. HM's got the King and Queen of Spain coming next week. That means a sovereign's escort, and I've got 15 horses coughing. Thank you so much. And on top of that, my regimental corporal major's got boils. However, no doubt we shall survive.
Yes. Would you like to see me privately, Colonel? I'm sure my wife will excuse us.
No. I would prefer to speak with you both, if you don't mind, Lady Marjorie.
On the contrary.
As you can probably guess, it's about your son and heir.
Yes, we thought it might be.
Well, not to mince matters, we're awfully worried about him. As you know, we think very highly of James. He's very popular in the regiment. All the same, I've been getting awful bad reports about him lately from the adjutant.
Well, we've seen very little of him since the regiment moved to Windsor, isn't that so, my
So
dear?
we were beginning to wonder how he was getting on.
Another drink.
No, thank you. I won't anymore.
Colonel, what about these reports?
Well, he's been drinking a good deal more than's good for him. Returning to barracks at all hours of the day or night. Very often the worse for wear. And that's only part of it. Not to put too fine a point upon it, it seems that he's in, well, considerable financial difficulties.
I see. Well, I'm very sorry to hear that.
In fact, I've had a confidential report from his squadron leader that he's being done by tradesmen. Now, once they start, they are the very devil. One fellow even came down to Windsor last week to serve a writ on him. I am sorry to bring you such rotten news.
Well, no, not a bit. I'm very glad you did. His mother and I had no idea.
No, of course not. Now, look, I don't want any of this to go any higher unless it's absolutely necessary. I've had him up before me and given him a hell of a dressing down. He's got 3 weeks orderly officer, which means that he's virtually confined to barracks. All the same, I thought a quiet word from you before it's too late might help to stop the rot. No, that's all I had to say, really. I won't keep you any longer.
It seems to me you've been more than patient with him, and we're very grateful for that.
Well, I like the boy. We all do.
We'll write to him at once and insist on his coming here to see us, if he could have special leave for that.
Oh, yes, of course. My object in coming here tonight is to try and contain the matter within the family as long as possible. I mean, we don't want a thing like this to get about, do we?
Thank you for calling. I assure you I shall deal with the matter.
Thank you very much. Lady Marjorie.
Good night, Colonel.
I enjoyed your sniping at Asquith. That was splendid.
Oh, did you? Well, I
Yes.
rather enjoyed that.
Home rule for Ireland, Dobbs.
It's a great big shame, and if she belonged to me, I'd let her know who. Nagging at a fellow was 6'4" and her only 4'2". Well, they've been married not a month no more. When underneath the phone goes Jim. Oh, isn't it a pity that the Lowick starboard?
Who's that?
To a woman upstairs. Should put up on the Lowick starboard. Dishes. It's a great big shame, and if she belonged to me, I'd let her know who to. Hep! Nagging at a fella body 6'4" and her only 4'2". Ole! Oh, they ain't been married not a month. When underneath that thumb goes Jim. Hep! Oh, you're drunk. Oh, isn't it a pity that the likes of us? Shut up, you old cow! Should put up on the likes of him. Hey, see, I
how does he smell?
Terrible! As I walk along the bottom line with an independent air, you can hear the birds declare,
he must be a millionaire. You can see them sigh and wish to die. You can see them weep with the other eye. The man who broke the bank at Monte Carlo. Sarah? Sarah, you all right? You knocked yourself unconscious. Shut up! Sarah, you all right? You gave me a hell of a fright. Sarah?
Don't I feel funny?
Yeah. You feel all right?
Is the gin all
Oh, to
right?
hell with the gin. Here, see if you can get up, eh? Put your feet on the bed.
I'm all right.
I'll get a sponge and
No, this
bathe
is
your
gin. I'm
forehead.
all right,
I'm
really.
afraid you'll have a nice bruise in the morning.
I'm all right. Just come and sit beside me a minute, will you?
But your head.
My head's fine. I fainted. I come over all dizzy and all the room went black.
It's the heat and that gin, eh?
Jimmy, if I tell you something, will you promise not to be cross?
I promise.
We're up the creek, Jim. 'Cause, well, there's a little captain on the way.
What?
A little James Bellamy. Inside me. Growing all the time and... Well, I won't be able to work much longer, Jim, so what are we going to do for money?
God!
Don't be angry, Jimmy, because it's your little baby that's on the way, yours and mine. There's been no one else, Jimmy, on my word of honour. So don't you be angry. I couldn't bear it if you was angry.
God.
Might as well finish that gin, eh? Mother's ruin.
Why, I suggest we start our tea without her. What do you say, Mrs. Bridges?
What's the time then, Mr. Hudson?
It's gone 5.
Oh, very well. Ruby, fetch the pot.
Which pot, Mrs. Bridges?
Oh, my goodness. The teapot girl.
Yes, Mrs. Bridges.
That girl's soft in the head.
Well, perhaps she's missed a train.
Who? Ruby?
Rose!
It's not like Rose to miss a train.
No, Rose was always a very conscientious and reliable member of the staff, Edward. Oh, there, that'll be her now.
Ruby, go and let her in.
Yes, Mrs. Bridges.
That means go to the back door, open it so as she can get in. Do you understand?
Yes, Mrs. Bridges.
Oh, may as well keep the pot warm till she's got herself sat down.
I don't know, such a fuss. Anyone would think we was expecting the Queen to tea, and it's only Rose who's worked here.
Rose is a visiting servant now, Edward. She's entitled to be treated accordingly. And it is incorrect to say Rose as worked here. The phrase is Rose who worked here. You really must try to improve your grammar, Edward.
Yes, Miss Tracy.
Sorry I'm late.
Oh, Rose.
Afternoon, Mr.
Rose.
Hudson. Hello, Mrs. Bridges. Edward.
Come and sit here beside me, Rose.
Thank you.
You know Ruby, my new kitchen maid.
Hello.
There you are, it is the Queen.
What?
Oh, Ruby, sit down. Try not to make yourself look more foolish than you do already.
Yes, no, Mrs. Bridges.
We was just about to start our tea, in case she wasn't coming.
Aye, it's quite away from Greenwich, eh, Rose?
Oh, it wasn't a train journey, Mr. Hudson. It was trying to get an omnibus from Charing Cross. All crowded they was, with people going home from their work. Whew. Anyhow, I'm here now.
Like you're strong, don't you, Rose? Just one spoonful of sugar.
That's right, Mrs. Bridges. Thank you. Well, How's everything at good old 165?
Oh, much the same as when you was here last. Mind, they're missing Miss Lizzie upstairs, I think. What do you say, Mr. Hudson?
Aye, for all their differences, the master and her ladyship, well, let's say the house does seem a wee bit quieter without her.
And Captain James?
Oh, he hasn't been here for some time, Rose.
Oh?
No, not since he popped into tea about a month ago when there were angry words about his allowance. His father went
Edward,
off...
that'll do.
And how's Miss Roberts?
It's her day off, Tuesday.
Oh, by the way, there's a letter for you, Rose.
Letter? For me?
Yeah, it came the day before yesterday.
I was going to forward it on to Mrs. Curbridge's address, but since you were coming here
I wonder
today...
who'd write me a letter.
Edward, fetch the letter for Rose. It's on the mantelpiece in my pantry.
With pleasure, Mr. Hudson.
What was the postmark?
Oh, I didn't notice.
But you said it was from Deptford, Mr. Hudson.
Did I, Ruby? I don't recall.
Mr. Hudson, when we was all sat down having our breakfast.
Ever such funny writing on the envelope. More like a child's.
The post, Miss Buck.
You haven't changed, have you, Edward? Still cheeky. For the life of me, I can't think who'd be writing to me. I don't know no one in Deptford. I don't really know anyone in London. If it was from Southwold, it'd be different. Wow. You'll never guess who it's from.
Oh, come on then, tell us.
Sarah.
Sarah?
That girl.
How dare she communicate after pushing her way into Mrs. Curbridge's wedding uninvited?
Oh, that's not quite true, Mr. Hudson. See, she met Captain James at some music hall. He told her the day at the wedding and she came just to be with us. Old time's sake.
You always did have a soft spot for that saucy little baggage.
Well, there was a lot of good in her.
There was a lot of booze in her as well after the wedding, don't you remember? It was me and Nellie trying to get her into a hansom cab at the back door. Her hat was all over her head and she had the hiccups.
Anyway, she's all right now, being an actress and all.
What does she say?
Dear Rosie, she always called me Rosie. Hoping you're in the pink. I am. Just finished an engagement at the Deptford Empire and am resting. Why not come and see me? We could talk about old times at good old Eaton Place. I often think of our attic and the larks we had. Can you come here on your day off and visit your old mate, Sarah? She don't change.
Will you go?
I might. Then again, I might not. Ooh, that looks lovely. Here, you should see the cook at our place, Mrs. Fellows. She's got ever such a long, pale face. Quite lugubrious, really. Never says a word except to complain about her blessed leg. Thomas says he thinks she's a witch. She keeps her broomstick stuck up her skirt. Oh, Thomas is a laugh. He's a real card. What did you think of him?
Oh, he seemed a nice enough fella that time he come here to collect the luggage.
He's our valet.
Mr. Curbridge's valet, no doubt.
That's right.
Who also, I understand, carries the coal, cleans the boots, lights the fires, as well as stoking the boiler.
That's right.
I be thankful of your position here, Edward, and the privilege of working for a larger household.
Yes, Mr. Hudson.
Oh, come on, Rose. Tell us some more.
Who is it?
The landlady said to come up. It's me, Sarah.
Rose.
Oh, Rosie! Oh, you... I got your letter. It was waiting for me at Eaton Place. I've just been there for tea with the others, and on my way home, it's just a short tram ride for Nessie.
What, to Miss Lizzie's? It's Greenwich, isn't it?
That's
Sit
right.
down.
Yes. Here, how did you know?
James told me.
Oh, you've seen him again.
James? Oh, he's popped in to see me at the Empire a couple of times. Well, how are they all then, eh? Mrs. Bridges still down, Mr. Hudson?
Oh, they're fine. How are you?
Oh,
You look a bit pale.
am I?
When's your next engagement, then?
Dunno. Might not be one.
Oh, I thought you said it was in great demand.
Oh, I am, only... Well,
Well, what?
can I trust you to keep a secret, Rose?
Oh, I should think so after all this time. Well, come on, go out with it.
going to have a baby, Rose. In the new year.
What?
I wanted you to be the first to know.
I didn't know you was married. Why didn't you say so in the letter?
I'm not married, Rose. It's a mistake.
Oh. Oh, what? Who's the father?
Look, Rose, I didn't want to tell anyone, but I've got to tell you, it's Jimmy.
Jimmy who?
Bellamy, of course.
Captain James? Yeah, you telling me the truth?
Rose, cross my heart and hope to die. You can ask him next time you see him, he won't deny it. We've been going out regular ever since Miss Lizzie's wedding. He took me to Paris, Rose. For a whole week, we stayed in the most posh hotel in the town. We went dining every night, champagne at Maxime's, and then we used to go on to other places like the Folies Bergère, and then...
Then what?
Well, then he started gambling a lot, Jimmy. They all do it in his regiment, but he started to lose more and more money. Oh, Rose! Oh, Rosie. I'm in such a mess. What'll I do? Get rid of it?
Get rid of it?
Help me, Rose. Tell me what to do.
What to do? It's what he's got to do more like. Marry you, of course, and keep you.
Well, he has offered, of course, but he's got no money, Rose. He's skint. He's in trouble with his regiment and he hasn't seen the family for weeks.
Do they know about the baby coming?
No! He'd never tell his father, he'd kill him.
Well, seems to me they'll have to know for your sake, otherwise, well, what'll happen to you? I have a good mind to.
No, Rose. No, listen, Rose, you tell nobody. You promise.
Then he'll have to come clean. Bloody well have to. Officer and a gentleman, isn't he? He'll have to see you straight. And if he ain't got no money, he'll have to get some from the master and her ladyship. So they'll have to know whatever happens, Sarah. They'll have to.
Perhaps you're right, Rose. I mean, I'm going to get blamed, not him. They'll think that I chased after him. But I didn't, Rose, honest.
When are you going to see Captain James again?
Tomorrow night, if he can sneak out. He does sometimes, you know, just to see if I'm all right.
Well, you must make him go home and see her ladyship. And if he won't, threaten him that you'll spill the beans.
I'm not going to do that, Rose. He's been ever so good to me.
Oh, it looks it, landing you in this muck.
I'm fond of him, Rose, for all his faults. He's nice, Jimmy. He's nice. I love him, Rose.
Oh, Sarah, you're a hopeless case. That's what you are. Hopeless case.
And these debts, James, how much do you owe?
Apart from a bill for £86 owing to Poirier's, which has been presented to your mother for settlement.
I'm sorry about that. It should not have been sent to Mother.
Well, how else is the wretched man to get his money, eh?
Yes.
Well?
Well, if you want the truth.
We do, James.
Very well. I have an overdraft at the bank of £372 up to yesterday. My debt to tradesmen add up to something like 550, and my personal debt to friends.
Gambling debts.
Yes. Another £300 or £400. I'm afraid I'm in a dreadful mess.
Yes. Yes, you are. Well, why didn't you come and see us? You know we'd have helped.
Yes, I know. Well, I'm supposed to be independent. You give me a very decent allowance, and I've got my pay. I'm dreadfully sorry.
There's something else, isn't there?
No, not really, no.
You're not ill, are you?
No, it's not that.
You can tell us. It's a woman, isn't it?
Well, yes, in a way. You see, that's really what I wanted to talk to you about. It's all connected with something else. A rather delicate personal matter.
Delicate? How do you mean?
Well, you see, this girl, of whom I'm very fond, is going to have a baby.
James.
Who is she?
If it's some cheap woman of the town, I don't want to know her name or any details.
No, it's someone you know, Mother.
I mean, the daughter of friends of ours.
No. She used to work here as under-house parlourmaid. Funny little creature. You used to say she amused you.
Sarah. Oh, my God.
Sarah? She's an actress now. Or was. She can't go on with it now, you see, because she is expecting this baby, of which I am the father.
Luncheon is served, my lady.
Well, we'd better go in.
That's the dining room done and the silver away, Mr. Hudson. Anything else?
From your tone, I infer that you're asking me for the afternoon off, Edward.
Well, I've stopped in the last 2 Saturdays and...
And you're meeting a friend in Kensington Gardens.
Well, yes. Well, we're going to listen to the band, so it won't cost me no money.
Ah, that's when the band stops playing and the gates close at dusk. That's when it begins to cost a young man money, Edward, so choose your companion wisely. Off you go now.
Thanks, Mr. Hudson. By the way, Mr. Hudson, I noticed at lunch while I was handing Captain James the potatoes, he said to his ladyship, I tried to really save money, Mother. Well, according to that book on grammar you give me, that's a split infinitive, isn't it? I mean, surely for an old Etonian, he's not very well educated. I thought they were supposed to talk proper.
You're quite correct in saying that Mr. James split an infinitive over luncheon, Edward. I noticed it myself. But don't speak too lightly of the old Etonians or underestimate their importance. Apart from providing this country with a number of prime ministers and colonial governors, we must never forget that they won the FA Cup in 1879. Get away with you now.
Thanks, Mr. Hudson. Oh, sorry, Mrs. Bridges.
Oh, Edward. What's Edward grinning all over his face for?
Oh, I've let him have the afternoon off, Mrs. Bridges, to go and hear the band playing in Kensington Gardens. A wee bit of Elgar and some Gilbert and Sullivan might improve his mind. Anyway, there'll be no more visitors today.
That young cub's still upstairs.
He is.
Saucy as ever, I suppose. I noticed he didn't come down and see me after lunch, not like he used to.
There's trouble, Mrs. Bridges. A very strained atmosphere. I don't like the smell of it.
What? Do you mean a row?
Over money again. If you ask me, that young shaver's got himself into debt. Come here for a loan from his father.
Oh, saucy monkey. So that's what he's come here for. What? It's in the blood. There was his great-uncle Bertie, you remember? Old Lady Southwell's youngest brother. He must have lost all his money in Monte Carlo and died of the shingles in Portugaria.
We shall have to consult Sir Geoffrey Dillon and discover what yours and our legal position is and what our liabilities add up to. There are questions of the child's upbringing, its education.
James, how could you do this to us?
Too late for tears now, Marjorie. James has involved us in what may well become a major scandal. For the sake of the family, Marjorie, and I include your mother and father and all the Southwell relations, this matter has got to be suppressed. However, as long as I have anything to do with it, the affair will not be hushed up at the expense of ordinary human justice and decency. There are obligations to be met, and Dillon will best see how to meet them fairly and with honor. And let's hope to God he can find a way out of this mess. Well, James, you better find your way back to Windsor. Call Hudson so we can get a cab.
Yes, Father. I'm very sorry, Mother.
I'm glad you told us the truth, my darling.
Late from school, aren't we? Oh, beg your pardon, Mrs. Bridges. Sorry I woke you, Mr. Hudson.
I was not asleep, Edward, merely dozing. Well?
It was the band of the lifeguards.
Oh, Captain James's regiment.
That's right, Mrs. Bridges. There he was, up on the bandstand, playing away at his French horn.
Don't be insolent, Edward.
Oh, that's the morning room.
Her ladyship wanting tea?
Well, the tray's all ready and set. Shall I take it up, Mr.
No, no, I'll see to it, Edward. You go up to the dressing room. Start brushing the master's frock coats.
Yes, Mr. Hudson.
Oh! Edward!
Sorry, Mrs. Bridges.
Ruby, I'm ashamed of you.
Thank you, Hudson.
My lady.
Hudson, I wanted to ask you something.
Yes, my lady.
You remember Sarah, the...
The under-house parlourmaid, my lady.
Yes. I was wondering if any of the servants had heard of her since Miss Elizabeth's wedding.
Strange you should mention her, my lady.
Oh, why?
Oh, Rose was here for tea downstairs just the other day, my lady, and she found a letter waiting for her from Sarah. Apparently Rose is now in correspondence with the girl.
Really?
What else did she ask?
Nothing else, Mrs. Bridges, just about Sarah. Whether she had any relatives living, I don't understand it.
I don't like the sound of it. It's my belief that girl's going round London making out she's something she's not. Lie away in anywhere she would. I wouldn't put it past her to go for a position, saying as she's a member of the Southwold family. She can talk like a lady when she likes, dress up in fancy clothes, fool anyone she knows.
Now, you're going too far, Mrs. Bridges. It's none of our business.
I'm not so sure.
Good afternoon, Sir Geoffrey.
Yeah, Inspector.
Yes, sir. Mr. Bellamy and her ladyship in the morning room, sir. And Captain Bellamy.
Oh,
The storm seems to have cleared up a wee bit, sir.
is it? I hadn't noticed.
Sir Geoffrey Dillon, my lady.
Geoffrey. Richard, I trust you haven't been waiting for me. Good afternoon, Lady Margaret.
Afternoon, Sir Geoffrey.
My new coachman has no bump of locality. I'm relieved to find myself in the right house. James?
Won't you sit down?
Thank you.
Who was that then, Mr. Hudson?
That was Sir Geoffrey Dillon, the family solicitor.
Oh? What's he come for?
I have no idea, Mrs. Bridges. You'll never better yourself reading rubbish like this, my lad. If you find yourself forced to remain a footman for the rest of your life, don't blame me. Now, listen to me. I've got something important to say to you all, so pay attention. Edward, this includes you. We've got visitors.
Well, we know that, Mr. Hudson.
I don't mean upstairs, Edward. I mean down here.
Visitors down here.
Yes, Ruby, and what they're here about is absolutely no concern of yours. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, Mr. Hudson.
Well, there, that'll be them now. Ruby, back door, if you please.
Yes, Mr. Hudson.
Mr. Hudson?
It's no good asking me any questions, Edward, because I don't intend answering.
But Mr. Hudson, all I was
Now,
gonna
that's
say...
enough, Edward.
So's Mr. Hudson. All right to come in.
Yes, of course, Ruth. Come in, Sarah. Sit down over here. Rose.
Sarah.
Any chance of a cup of tea, Mrs. Bridges?
Ruby? Kettle.
What's your Sarah? Everything all right?
They'll ring when they're ready for you to go up. Meanwhile, you'll both remain in here.
Oh, when you come in, Rose?
Oh, her ladyship asked Miss Lizzie if she could spare me for the day to fetch Sarah from her lodgings and bring her here. That's right, isn't it, Sarah?
Yes.
Seeing as how we're old friends and I knew where she was living. That's right, isn't it, Sarah?
Right.
Not quite so chatty as you used to be when you was in service, are you, Sarah?
I'm feeling a bit dicky, Mrs. Bridges.
Oh. Oh, sorry to hear that.
Rose tells us that you were on the bill of the Deptford Empire.
Yeah, I was, only I'm resting now.
Oh.
Captain James is upstairs in the morning room.
Is he?
Didn't you know he was here?
No. It hasn't changed a bit, has it, the old room?
Nothing changes at 165, Sarah. Only the staff. There, that'll be the morning room.
Does that mean they want me now?
Yes, come with me, Sarah, up to the hall. No, Rose, you stay down here, have your tea. Come along, Sarah.
Edward, Go into the scullery and give Ruby a hand with the teapot.
What, me?
Yes, you. And close the door. Oh. Come on, Rose. What's all this about?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Bridges, but I really mustn't say.
Oh, I don't know. All this mystery. Secrets breed secrets and does nothing but harm. Is it to do with the family?
Yes, Mrs. Bridges.
If it concerns the family, Rose, it concerns me.
Yes, Mrs. Bridges.
Now, come along, Rose.
Do you remember the first time I come here, Mr. Hudson?
I remember the occasion very clearly.
Your face when I tried to come in through the front door. You said I wasn't to question my betters and that you was my better because you was older and wiser than me and I was to learn humility. Do you remember?
It's a pity you didn't learn it.
Don't you ever have a laugh?
On suitable occasions. Come along, Sarah. They're waiting for you.
Oh, by the way, Mr. Hudson, I prefer not to be announced as Sarah, if you don't mind. It's not my name. It was forced on me and I don't like it.
I'll say it's Miss Moffat, then, if you prefer it.
Oh, well, being as though I'm known on the music halls as Clémence Delis, I would prefer to be announced as such.
I am not prepared to announce a former servant in this house by a fancy French name, unless the name was given to you at your baptism.
Oh, I'm baptised. They didn't go in for that sort of thing, not where I come from.
Exactly. Well, put your head straight. Are you ready?
Just a minute. Lead me to the slaughter.
Sarah is here, my lady.
Ask her to come in, please, Hudson.
Come in, Sarah. Sit down. Now, Sarah, I've been told of your friendship with Captain Bellamys after you left his parents' service, and of your present condition resulting from that relationship.
Yes, sir.
It goes without saying that the family accept absolutely their responsibility.
Thank you, sir. I don't want to make no trouble for no one. I mean, it was my fault as much as Captain James. It's just that with the baby coming and everything, I won't be able to go on working much longer, and I haven't got the money to bring up the baby as it ought to be brought up, being like your grandchild, my lady. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
You have every right to say it, Sarah, if it's true.
Oh, but it's true, sir. Isn't it, Captain James?
Already said so, Father.
Yes, quite. Now, Sarah, I want you to pay attention to Sir Geoffrey Dillon, who is our family solicitor, and has come here to advise us in this matter. Geoffrey, perhaps you will tell Sarah what she has to do. What is your surname, Sarah?
Moffat, sir.
Sarah Moffat. I see. There will be the question of registration when the child is born.
Oh, I see.
Children born out of lawful wedlock are nevertheless required to be registered. By the state, you understand?
Yes, sir.
In the mother's name.
Yes, sir.
Now, as to the eventual birth of the child, Captain Bellamys has informed us that you were examined by a doctor in Deptford last week who confirmed your condition, which we understand to be a pregnancy of 3 to 4 months. Is that so?
Yes, sir.
Now, Sarah, arrangements have been made, with the generous consent of Lady Marjorie, for you to travel down at once to Southwold, where you'll be lodged with Mr. and Mrs. Clay at their cottage on the estate. You'll find them an agreeable and homely couple, Mr. Clay being head gamekeeper at Lord Southwold, and Mrs. Clay, by good fortune, a qualified midwife.
Oh, just a minute.
Now, Sarah, you must listen to Sir Geoffrey. It is for your own good. You will remain in the care of Mr. and Mrs. Clay until such time as your confinement is at an end and the child is born. Thereafter, if you wish it, and I think you would be well advised to agree, some form of light work will be found for you on the estate, possibly in the laundry. Meanwhile, arrangements will be made for the child's schooling and for some eventual career.
Now listen, mister. I'm not going to be stuck away in some rotten cottage with 2 people I've never set eyes on in my life before just because
Sarah, everything possible is being done for your welfare and comfort. I think you must remember that. Sit down, Sarah.
I think you should realize at once that marriage to the father of your child would be quite out of the question. I think you've been in domestic service long enough to understand that.
I'm not a housemaid now. I'm an actress. I'm on the stage. I'm respectable.
I'm sorry to disillusion you, but I'm afraid the theatrical profession is not generally considered respectable.
Oh, isn't it? Well, let me tell you something. Plenty of actresses have married famous men. Peers of the realm and all. There's Rosie Boot and Denise Orme and lots more besides. Some of them only in the chorus.
Nevertheless, officers of the household brigade are not permitted to marry actresses.
Is this true?
If Captain Bellamys were to offer you his hand in marriage, he'd be obliged to resign his commission in the Life Guards.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm sure you wouldn't wish to destroy his career, would you?
I don't know. Why don't you say something, Jimmy? I mean, I don't expect you to marry me, but why don't you say something? Say you'll come down and visit me in Southwold, me and the baby. Tell me that what they're asking me to do is right. But say something, won't you?
I think you would be well advised to accept the arrangements that have been made for your well-being, Miss Moffat. The alternatives could be very grim indeed.
When do you want me to go?
Have you brought your luggage with you as we asked?
Yes, my lady, it's in the servants' hall. Rosie's minding it for me.
Then Hudson will give you some money and fetch you a cab to Paddington Station.
Thank you, my lady. When am I going to see you again? Hey?
Captain Bellamys has given his parents an undertaking neither to see you nor to communicate with you ever again. And I must ask for a similar undertaking from you.
Well, if there's nothing further, my lady, I'll go downstairs and sit with my friends till it's time for me to go.
God's sake, let me say something to her privately.
I wouldn't.
I'm damned if I'll let her leave this house without saying goodbye.
James!
Sarah? Sarah? I'll write to you.
Come in, James. Sit down. Well, that seemed perfectly satisfactory. Now, James, we can discuss your future.
What is there to discuss?
I have a letter here from the military secretary confirming that your son will be seconded to the Sind Horse with effect from the 12th of this month.
The Sind Horse? But surely that's an Indian cavalry regiment.
Precisely. You will sail on the P&O boat which leaves Tilbury on the 12th. That will give you time to buy your kit.
Have you gone out of your mind, Sir Geoffrey? This is quite unthinkable.
There can be no question of James remaining with his regiment at Windsor, within a radius of the court.
What's that got to do with it?
If it should reach the Queen's ears...
She's deaf. Besides, I'd like to know since when this particular court has represented moral impeccability.
I'm sure you wouldn't wish in your position, Lady Marjorie, to insult the throne.
That, Sir Geoffrey, is none of your business. I would remind you that you are employed by my father as his solicitor. Your duties do not include telling me how to behave in my own house.
Marjorie, please.
I want to know who suggested this incredible arrangement in the first place.
India was my suggestion, and readily received.
But you said nothing of this to me.
My dear, I've told you more than once, these are matters for men to decide. Sir Geoffrey's brief was to find a way out of a delicate and dangerous situation.
Exactly. So my mother agrees to lodge the girl at Southwold until the baby is born because I ask her to. You call that a matter for men?
We thought it better to inform you of the second part of our plan only after the details were settled. The India office received confirmation from Colonel Pitt of the Sindh horse in Peshawar only yesterday.
If I may say a word on my own behalf,
Yes, James.
I agree to go to India, willingly. I'd rather not stay here and listen to a lot of bitter arguments about Sarah and myself. If I'm wanted, I shall be in my room packing. Sir Geoffrey.
This is the most outrageous and underhand conspiracy I've ever seen, and I refuse to agree to it.
That would be most unwise.
I will not allow my son to be packed off to India, banished from his country and his regiment just because some little upstart of a housemaid traps him in a weak moment.
There is also the question of his debts, Lady Marjorie, to say nothing of his recent conduct in the regiment. You've heard his colonel's report.
It is not for you to sit in judgment over that.
On the contrary. I must point out that I have a clear duty to Lord and Lady Southwold and to the Talbot Carey family as a whole. I am the family solicitor, and I must advise them well. After all, the family name must be protected at all times from scandal. I believe James himself recognizes that.
James may recognize it, but I do not. And I want it made absolutely clear, Sir Geoffrey, that I forbid you to proceed further with these arrangements till I have discussed them with my father.
Lady Marjorie, I ought to point out that it was your father who consulted the Viceroy concerning the choice of regiment for your son.
My father?
It's a happy chance that your father and the Viceroy are such old friends. I assure you, it's all for the best. If there's anything further to be discussed, I shall be in my office in the morning. She'll take time to accept it. They're very close, you know, she and James. Evidently. Perhaps we should have told her before. It was rather abrupt and quite a shock for her. I'm sorry if she was discourteous to you. The lioness protecting her young is entitled to show her claws. I respect that, Richard. India may well be the making of your son. I hope so. Well, thank you for all you've done. It can't have been easy. My dear boy, that's precisely why we solicitors charge exorbitant fees. Good night.
Sorry.
It had to be done.
Yes.
Won't do James any harm to get away for a time from London and Windsor. See a bit of the world.
Yes. You know, when the children were little, I used to wonder so how they'd be when they grew up, and now I just... Oh!
India? Are you sure, Edward?
Of course I'm sure. He said India would be the making of him. That's what he said.
India wasn't the making of Lady Marjorie's Uncle Bertie.
Lady Marjorie was crying her eyes out. I could hear her.
Such a long way away.
Poor Lady Marjorie. It's not like her to cry.
Damn Lady Marjorie. To hell with them all.
Sarah! Edward, go and see what that daft girl's up to. It doesn't take all day to get a cab. No, wait a minute, Edward. Now listen to me, all of you. And this includes you, Sarah. Not one word of this has to go beyond this house. There's many a great family been ruined by scandals less than this one. And remember, you keep your mouth shut down at Southwold, my girl.
If anyone else says that to me, I'll scream.
Here's Ruby with a cab.
Thank God for that.
Bye-bye, Mr. Bridges.
Goodbye, Sarah, my dear. Good luck.
Bye, Mr. Hudson.
Goodbye, Sarah.
I don't know what's going to happen to that poor girl. I don't.
Rose?
What's the matter?
Rose? I'm frightened.